Welcome back, everyone, to another explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in today. We're going to be unpacking a brilliant, vibrant piece of popular culture that does a whole lot more than just entertain. It truly reflects the very soul of a nation. We are, of course, talking about the historically rich and visually dynamic world of Philippine comics. Okay, let's just dive right into this. Right from the jump, early pioneer characters like Kenkoy bursts off the page. I mean, we're talking exaggerated features, vibrant colors, and just sheer expressive energy. But these panels, they weren't just funny cartoons. From the very beginning, they acted as a profound mirror for the everyday Filipino. They captured the language, the humor, the daily struggles. It was accessible, it was wildly popular, and honestly, it sparked a total cultural revolution. Just so we're all on exactly the same page, at its core, comics, or comics as they're locally known in the Philippines, are a medium used to express ideas with images. They typically take the form of a sequence of panels, and they're often combined with text. It's that beautiful, seamless blend of visual imagery and the written word working totally in sync to tell a compelling story. So, here's our roadmap for today. We've got 5 main stops. 1. The birth of Philippine comics. 2. Masters of the medium. 3. Superheroes and national ideals. 4. The mirror of social realism. And finally, 5. The digital transformation. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the birth of Philippine comics. If we want to trace the historical foundations of this medium, we actually have to step way back to the late 19th century with Dr. Jose Rizal. Fast forward a bit to the 1920s, and you see visual storytelling really growing into a formalized, highly accessible mass entertainment, heavily spearheaded by Tony Velasquez. Going back to Dr. Jose Rizal for a second, his illustrated fable Ang Matsing Abang Pagong, which translates to The Monkey on the Turtle, well, it wasn't just a simple children's book. Rizal took moral instruction and actively combined it with sequential drawings. And because of that specific, deliberate format, this work is widely regarded as the absolute earliest example of Filipino comics. It literally laid the bedrock for everything that followed. Then, a few decades later in the 1920s, Tony Velasquez introduced Kenkoy in Liwayway magazine. This was a real game changer because it effectively formalized the entire comics industry. Velasquez is rightfully recognized as the father of Philippine comics. Through Kenkoy's hilarious misadventures, he was able to deliver incredibly relatable social commentary. He established comics as something everyday people could pick up, have a good laugh at, and actually see their own lives reflected back at them. Moving right along to Section 2, Masters of the Medium. There is such a striking visual contrast when you look at the different world builders from this era. On one hand, you have the iconic, bright, unapologetically heroic style of Mars Ravelo. Think of heroes like Captain Barbell. And on the flip side, you have the gritty, action-packed, thrilling work of Carlo Jacob Paris with characters like Gagambino. They had vastly different artistic styles, sure, but together, they completely defined the golden era of Filipino visual storytelling. To put their legacies into perspective, Mars Ravelo is heavily celebrated as the king of Philippine comics. He created those unforgettable household staples like Darna and Lastic Man. Carlo Jacob Paris, meanwhile, is the undisputed master of dynamic comic strips. He invited readers into these thrilling, often dangerous worlds of adventure, with epic works like Ang Panday and Kamandag. Between the two of them, they practically built the modern mythology of the Philippines. Which brings us to Section 3, Superheroes and National Ideals. Take Darna, for example. She isn't just someone flying around in a cape. No way. In Philippine comics, superheroes very often embody distinct national ideals and the relentless pursuit of social justice. Darna stands out as a prime example of this. She's a profound symbol of courage, immense resilience, and unwavering moral integrity. She really represents the strength of the Filipino spirit when facing absolutely overwhelming odds. And unlike a lot of Western heroes, the billionaire playboys or aliens from distant planets, Filipino counterparts like Lastic Man often emerge from incredibly humble backgrounds. These characters are intentionally designed to tackle very grounded, local issues. They deal with poverty, they fight systemic corruption, and they're always actively working for the welfare of their community. They are, quite literally, heroes of the people, from the people. Let's dive deeper into that in Section 4, The Mirror of Social Realism. The thematic dimensions of comics are seriously heavy-hitting.
They weren't afraid to explore incredibly complex ideas. Writers and artists used this accessible medium as a really powerful vehicle to spark dialogues on everything from environmental sustainability to mental health awareness and even gender equality. They used biting satire for political commentary, championed social realism through these amazing underdog triumphs, and did some incredible work adapting Indigenous literature. Bottom line, comics were never just simple entertainment. They were vital catalysts for thought, empathy, and serious civic discourse.
Pogad Baboy brilliantly illustrates this. Through humor and heavy exaggeration, the artist tackles massive, systemic topics like government inefficiency, electoral politics, and deep social inequality. And the best part is they do it so impartially, skewering the system across the board. It makes audiences laugh, sure, but it also forces them to critically evaluate the societal norms happening all around them.
Then you have stories like Ang Panday. It is the ultimate underdog narrative, and it is heavily steeped in social realism. Many comics focus purely on the struggles of marginalized individuals. We're talking about protagonists from impoverished communities who have to overcome severe adversity, and they do it through sheer intelligence, perseverance, or maybe just a little bit of supernatural intervention. These narratives resonate so deeply with the masses because they highlight real-world systemic challenges while still offering a deeply aspirational outcome. Now, another huge aspect is how adapting indigenous legends, epics, and folktales into the comics format played a massive role in preserving cultural heritage. By translating those ancient oral traditions into a highly accessible visual form, creators made absolutely sure that foundational myths and moral values were safely transmitted down to younger generations. Finally, let's look at the modern era in Section 5, the digital transformation. But, as we know, things don't stay the same forever. Researchers Dina Billy and colleagues hit the nail on the head when they highlighted a critical turning point for the medium, calling it competing with the television. Starting in the 1990s, the explosive rise of television and other mass media drastically shifted how people consumed stories. TV offered instant entertainment and rapid visual stimulation, and sadly, this severely impacted print readership and really hurt the commercial viability of the traditional comics industry. The reality of that 1990s decline was pretty stark. Audiences were drawn right away from printed materials and straight into the arms of instant mass media. The whole way Filipinos consumed their most beloved stories changed forever. The physical comic book, which used to be passed from hand to hand throughout the community, suddenly had to compete with a glowing screen right there in the living room. It forced a massive evolution, and in many ways, a steep decline of that golden age format. Which leaves us with a pretty critical thought to end on today. How will your local print media survive and evolve in today's digital landscape? We've seen how Philippine comics shaped a culture, offered a mirror to society, and literally built national heroes, only to be heavily disrupted by the screen. In our incredibly screen-dominated world right now, how do traditional localized forms of storytelling adapt so their totally unique voices aren't lost forever? I want you to really think about that as you consume your media this week. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you on the next one.